just didn't fly under the radar. As part of Matsushita, the then largest electronics conglomerate on the planet, Panasonic could hide from no one. But units like the MR100 dwelled in the aesthetic shadow of Kenwood, the reliability shadow of Sony, and the sound quality shadows of Iowa and Sharp. Where their competitors impressed the masses with fancy pants designs and lollipop sound, Panasonic stamped its mark squarely by designing excellent user interfaces for playback and recording. The MR100's clever double-jobbing jog dial made song and album selection and titling easy as pie. Not even Iowa's F5 to F80 series came close. A press of the pause play character button switches from capital to lowercase, and then to numerals, kana, and back, and the cursor sticks to recently selected letters rather than resetting when the case changes. Every character iterates with a solid dial detent. If you want to speed things up, just twist the dial faster. If you're huffing it, a sweep from A to Z, for instance, takes less than a second. You can title songs straight from the playback screen, after which the MR100 will edit the UTalk. Album titles can only be edited when the disc is stopped. Panasonic's follow-ups, the MR200 and MR220, swapped out the jog dial for awkward swing touchpads. These couldn't hold a candle to the MR100. Controls lead with a large stop button. An equally large play-pause button follows. After that come slim volume buttons. Below them are even slimmer buttons for play mode and EQ. The jog dial changes tracks. Above it are the display and edit buttons. Each doubles up with a specific titling or record function. With one caveat, you'll not find a better recorder interface. That caveat is scrobbling. A brief dig into the manual shows that Panasonic think it possible to scrobble both forward and backward from the jog dial. Just depress and roll. But no matter how many times I try, and no matter the nuance with which I turn the dial, I end up changing tracks. If scrobbling is your thing, you'll have to use a remote. The good news is that the MR100's remote is simply laid out and easy to use. The bad news is that it worsens the sound. Apart from a slight flex in the middle, the MR100's body is solid. Its battery door is braced between two metal halves rather than hanging off the corner. No other gumstick unit I have seen pays such close attention to an easily broken part of the body. Of course, the battery door sits on a weak hinge. Sony's, Sharp's, and even Iowa's hinges are more robust. Two other things concern me. 1. 6 of the 10 external screws sit in flush rather than countersunk wells, which, given the wrong amount and type of fiddling, can come unscrewed. 2. The plastic belt around the middle doesn't join end to end. Be careful not to snag it on anything, it will rip off. Using the stock nickel metal hydride battery, the MR100 can play a disc from end to end on repeat for about 10 hours, and it will record for about half of that. Its screen doesn't light up like an Iowa AM F70s or F80s does, but it shows loads of information in well laid out niches. It may not look exciting, but it sure as heck feels premium. The MR100's 40-second shock memory works well. Like all pre-millennial units, it constantly scans forward and with notable mechanical noise. As such, it isn't a great sleeping companion in a quiet room. The good news is that none of the mechanical noise seeps through into the audio output. That is, unless your earphones are plugged into the remote, in which case electronic noise is incendiary. The MR100 hisses less than many of its contemporaries. Feeding a FitEar MH335DW, hiss is clearly audible from a volume setting of 0 out of 30. This continues all the way up to volume of 8, after which the combination is too loud for me. At home I set the pair to 3 out of 30, and on the bus or train to 6 out of 30. In comparison, Iowa's best recorders hiss so much that I refuse to use MH335DW anywhere near them. The player-only units are much better. Coincidentally, the MR100 hisses about as much as an Iowa AM HX100, which is one of my all-time favorite sounding players. If you want less hiss, choose something like an Audio-Technica CK10 or better yet a Sony EX1000. Better still is HIFi's P1, which is dead silent through the MR100. Driving an Earsonics SM2, the MR100 rolls off bass by -4 dB at 20 Hz and by 0.5 dB at 35 Hz. Not bad. At -90.1 decibels of noise and 90.6 decibels of dynamic range, it rounds out the best of its class and vintage. The MR100 signal never falls apart anywhere, but it shows relatively high levels of jitter. The good news is that jitter is inaudible, and under load it jumps by a mere 300%. 300%, you say? It's nothing, trust me. Some modern DAPs multiply IMD over bass by 7,000% when loaded. Sure, those DAPs start out at 0.0005%, and of course the MR100's meager 5 milliwatts per channel amplifier never strains the SM2's drivers, even at maximum volume. In hindsight, the AK380 doesn't look so bad considering it's pumping many times voltage into the SM2, but 7,000%? is quite the aberration for a $3,500 player. The MR100's stereo image cleaves to the lows, and most channel separation comes after 3 kHz. This creates a warmish stereo vector that pervades most of the vocal range. This is great for pathos-heavy instrumental synthwave, but not for live shows, musicals, or your favorite soprano. Ideally, lows and highs would get even measure of separation. Alternatively, they would curve up in U or V-shaped parabolas, allowing the listener to concentrate on the mids. The MR100's stereo slope is gentle, but its output is mildly boxy. Vocals close in more than they do in more neutral sounding units. Bass pulls close, below the throat, and EQ'd or not feels stronger or warmer than it measures. Overall, the MR100 sounds good but not great. I wish it allowed the mids to breathe a bit more, and I wish it hissed less. But it holds signal really well, and its 5 mW per channel amplifier is more than enough to power a modern HIFi portable headphone or earphone. In fact, thanks to its power and handling, I've been spending more time with the Ultrasonic Edition 8 than I normally do with newer Panasonic units. The MR100 is a classic. Apart from its cheap battery door hinge, it is almost perfectly built. It is one of the best titlers and editors out there in either the pre or post MDLP era, and it is really well laid out. Even before they conceived of their impeccably designed S-camera line, Panasonic proved that the interface game belongs to them. Well done.